One of my like kind of favorite when we get in kind of in depth on this level of love maps is what I kind of call getting the color behind the answer to a question. So, like I was saying in our first lessons around asking questions, that we want to ask questions that are more open-ended, that open the heart, that aren't just yes and no. But sometimes some of the questions do have a direct an answer. So, right, like what is your favorite kind of food? Actually, I'm going to use this example because it's a better one for my particular life, which is what's your favorite kind of tree? I'm going to take that as our example. So when I first started doing therapy and working in the Gottman method, I would very often give the homework assignment to couples to do these love map card decks. And they were actual physical cards that we held and would do them. And so I thought, okay, well, I got to do this too. So I went home and asked my husband to do these love map questions with me. And I remember one of the questions that we did was, what is your favorite tree? So I asked the question. I got the answer. And then I asked more questions because I wanted to know more about this. I wanted the who and the why and the what and the how, and I wanted all of it. So what I can tell you right now is I have no idea what my husband's favorite tree is. No clue. I could kind of guess potentially, but I'd be afraid to guess because I'm probably going to get it wrong. But what I found out from that conversation matters way more than the answer to that question. What I learned by having the conversation or starting the conversation with what's your favorite kind of tree and then asking more questions, what I had learned was that as a young boy, and into teenage, young adulthood, my husband would go to his grandfather's house and do yard work. And he'd get paid a little bit of money. And his grandpa was very specific the way he liked things done. Him and his grandpa would have lunch together every day. My husband would walk down to this little grocery store that was on the corner. It's no longer there. But he would go down there and he would get the stuff for lunch. And then he'd come home and then they would make it. And then they would eat together. And they'd have some conversation. And then they'd go out and do more yard work. So things that were very connecting for me in that story was that I had a beautiful relationship with my grandmother when I was a much, much younger person. She passed away when I was only 8 years old. But I had a very strong connection with her. And I am seeing through this storytelling that my husband had a very deep connection with his grandpa. It also tells both of us how and maybe what role, as long as our family is, we have family that we get along with, there's healthy boundaries, healthy family dynamics. We want our kids to have meaningful, special relationships with their grandparents, which means also for me, if I have any issue with my in-law, my mother-in-law, for instance, that isn't very big, probably just more of an annoyance that I could say, but for the relationship goals, which are to have our kids have meaningful, close connected relationships with their grandparents. And we want that, and that is a collective, kind of shared vision. And we happen to have, through love mapping and getting the color, similar experiences. That doesn't always happen, right? Of course. But I want just to tell that story because that one question led me to so many other insights into my marriage, my partner, and kind of the family we wanted to create and the connections within the different family members we wanted to foster and encourage because it mattered to us. And we heard that when we talked about it, when we asked the questions, right? It can also help, I think I mentioned this earlier, help us be more thoughtful gift givers and just thoughtful partners, right? When I have gotten all of the color on a question, it might have been a restaurant, maybe, type of food, right? Like maybe it's Chinese food and I want to know the first time you had Chinese food or your absolute favorite place to get Chinese food. Do you want to go to China? This is kind of a stupid question, but is that a part of the dream? Is that a part of this connection? You know, does that then help me think about a gift that I come across? Or my partner is hungry and I can stop by their favorite Chinese place and bring them food. So I'm caring and I'm loving, and I'm also showing you that I listened. I asked these questions, I got the color, I listened, and I did something with that information in a positive way for our relationship. I also want to know the color because I need to know sometimes why something might be so important to you that is an issue or a topic that we're having conflict over. Because I need to come at this from understanding and compassion. So I need to know. I need to ask more questions. And also, like, how boring of a exercise would the love map being exercise be? Which I know it has been. If you asked one question, got the answer, and you were done. Or if you did what some of my clients have done when I've given this assignment and they've gone through, and I've clearly said don't go through the whole deck, but they've gone through the whole card deck, and they have been like, yeah, I know all the answers. Or I knew way more than he did. I knew that was going to happen. That's not fun, right? It's not a competition. I mean, it always is, but it's not, right? I want my partner to be like, okay, what's your favorite kind of food? You know, well, Mexican food, tacos. Oh yeah, I knew that. Okay, but then if he would have just said, okay, well, tell me more, or, you know, I know one of my favorite things that you cook, babe, are your tacos. And so where did you learn how to make tacos? And do you, you know, get frustrated when you go somewhere and the tacos aren't that good? Or, right, like, tell me, I want to know it all. I want to know the color. I want to know everything about that story I can know. I want to know if you remember how you were feeling the first time you saw a Broadway show. And you knew that then you wanted to get into theater. I want to know that. This all helps create that love map. I want to know so fully that I can understand and I can kind of really, as best as I can, avoid some triggers. I'm not going to avoid them all. But when I am love mapping and I am getting attuned and I am getting clarity and I'm getting the color, I'm really starting to get and understand my partner's like inner working model. I'm really starting to understand them. I know the things that make them tick. I know the people who stress them out. I know the people who create comfort. I know what my partner is like, what they're allergic to. I'm not going to bring them that. I know their favorite ice cream. Right? I know all of these things so that I can be a more thoughtful partner, whether that's through gift giving, whether that's through being able to kind of like spot and see a trigger before I hit it, because I know. It could be me getting clarity. Any of those is helping us really make this level as strong as we can make it. Because this is often when it's like, oh, it's love maps. Yeah, I know. We know everything. And so we don't spend a lot of time here. And my point in making us spend 7 lessons on love maps is to really drill home how important this is. If we stop asking questions, we stop learning, we stop knowing, we don't know anything about this relationship, about this person. We just start doing the things. We start doing the tasks. We start engaging in the logistics. And even that becomes hard. Because if we're not updating our love maps, then we don't even know logistically what's happening either, which is then even more frustrating. It feels empty. It feels like we are roommates. And we're not even starting to do that very well anymore, because we can be so far apart on things, and we're making all these assumptions. So if I'm making an assumption, you're making an assumption, and then we're having an argument about something, if we would just got clarity, that we wouldn't be having an argument on. So get the color. Take the time. Ask more questions. Learn everything you can about that. Spend 30 minutes on one question. So go back through, find one of those questions that you asked in your first lesson, and see how far you can take that. See how much information, see how much new info you learned about that. Can you take it somewhere else? Follow it. Where does it go? And have fun. As always, this one should be all about having fun, because we get to learn more about our person.